Hello there. In the last video we installed Visual Studio 2017. I hope you didn't have too many problems with that. In this video we're going to find out how to create a C++ application using Visual Studio. When you start up Visual Studio for the first time, you may be asked to sign in. So you can enter your Microsoft account details there. If you don't have a Microsoft account, there's a link you can click on which will take you to a site where you can register. Microsoft try and make it look as though you have to use one of their email accounts, but in fact you can just use your normal email address. You don't have to create a special Microsoft one just for that. Okay, so now that we're in Visual Studio, let's start creating this program. So the first thing we have to do is to create a project to keep all the files in. So we do File, New, Project. You should have a Visual C++ item in here. If you don't, you can click on this to go back into the installer. So this will open up the installer and it'll show you everything that's been installed in your copy of Visual Studio. Okay, so the important one here is this one, Desktop Development with C++. You need to have this one checked. If it isn't checked, then you don't have C++ support in Visual Studio and you need to add it. So you check that one and then there'll be a button here you can use to install. In this case it's already installed, so there's nothing left to do. So we can just close this. So these are just the programs which are available with the Visual Studio installer. Community is the one we have installed, which is free, and these two are ones which you have to pay for. So let's close that. Okay, so assuming that we have Visual C++, click on Windows Desktop and then the Windows Desktop Wizard. Then we can create our project. So let's call this Hello. So make sure this says console application.exe. We uncheck these because we don't need them, and we check this one because we want to make an empty project, and we don't check those either, so make sure those are unchecked. So that one should be the only one that's checked now. Right, so let's accept that. Now it's going to go off and complete the project creation. So here it is. This is everything that's in the project, so we haven't added anything, so there's not really anything here yet. Okay, so let's add a file to this project. So this is going to be the file that contains the instructions for the program. So we go to Project, add New Item. It's going to be C++ and it's going to be a C++ file, .cpp. And we've been offered the name source, but let's call it Hello because that's a bit of a better description of what it does. Okay, so we now have a hello.cpp file and we have an editor window here in which we can type our instructions. So I'm going to do that now. There is actually a slide that comes with the course that contains this code. So if you can't copy it off the screen, don't worry. If you haven't done C++ before, this will probably look like complete gibberish, but don't worry about it. So make sure you enter it exactly as it is on here. If there are any mistakes, then it won't be accepted. So this is hello.cpp. The star after it means that we have some changes that haven't been saved. So let's do that. So File, Save. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to convert these codes that humans can, in theory, understand into something that the computer understands. So we need to build the project. So we can do that by build solution. And we should get some things appearing here telling us what's going on. So it started building it. It's working on hello.cpp and it succeeded. Well, that's nice. So we should now have an application that we can run. So let's do that. Usually on IDEs you have a command that says run. Visual Studio doesn't seem to do that. Instead you have to debug and then start without debugging. Okay, so fingers crossed. Yes, hello world. So we have actually printed out the words hello world. Then underneath this we have press any key to continue. So this is not actually anything that we've told the program to do. This is something that's been added, so it'll give us enough time to actually read the output. What would happen is that Windows would create a little console, then if it would display the output, then the program would terminate and the console would close. So all we'd see is a console flash up very quickly. We wouldn't even have time to read the text. So this slows things down and allows us to actually see what our program has done. So that looks okay, so we'll just press a key to continue. Okay, and just to show you what can happen if you don't type things in correctly, which we all do, well, it's easy to make mistakes. So I'm going to remove this semicolon here. So the star appears again here, so we need to save our changes. Let's try to build it. And now this is different. We have errors. Expected a semicolon and syntax error, missing semicolon before close curly bracket. Now you need good eyesight for this. What we can see actually is that we've got some information. So it's in the project hello, which is the one we're working on. It's in the file hello.cpp, which is good because that's the only file we've got. And it's on line 5. So we can go to line 5 and we see there's a squiggle here. If we put the mouse over it, it says expected a semicolon. So in fact the error is on line 4, but apart from that it's done really well. The reason why it's off by 1 is that in C++ a semicolon means the end of a statement. So if you don't put a semicolon, it carries on until it finds one. So in this case it went ahead and looked for a semicolon, but instead it got a curly bracket, which is not right, so it stopped and said this isn't right. So we know the problem is that a semicolon is missing, so we can put it back in, save our code, and build the project, build the solution rather. And yes, it succeeds again. And just a quick check. There we are. Okay, so if you've done all that, you're now officially a C++ programmer. Welcome to the club. So that's it really for this video. I'll see you next time, but meanwhile, keep coding.